Hey coders, welcome back. This is the third video for the Advanced Coding Contest for the Mission to Mars contest. So make sure you've done the other two videos before you do this one. Otherwise your project won't be able to continue like where we're going to start off with ours. So we need to start by fixing something in our last project. So hit the green flag. If you hit the button number 1, it works exactly right, except that the player now is stuck on this screen. We didn't put any code in here to get the player back to the main screen where they can choose the next game to play. So we need to add something to our project here. So on the game 1 rocket, make sure we have the names of the sprites right so we know which one we're doing. On the game 1 rocket, we're going to add an event to our when I receive start game 1. And we're not going to add an event. We're going to add a control. Sorry. So we're going to add a wait delay. After it receives start game, it shows up and it goes to the front layer. What we need to do is put in a delay here that's long enough for all of these sprites to move into the rocket. So if you put delays on these ones, like glide for 3 seconds, glide for 4 seconds, or wait 5 seconds, or something like that, you need to make sure that your wait here is longer than all of those, than your longest sprite that moves into the rocket. So on mine, I'm just going to do 4 seconds. Mine all happen in 1 second, so I don't need one that long, but you may need a longer delay there. And then we're going to broadcast two things. So after it waits 4 seconds, we're going to broadcast clear everything, and then we want to broadcast this one here that says start game. Nope, we want to broadcast the one here that says go to main screen. Now think about that for a second. Go to main screen tells these buttons here to show up on the screen, right? But that's really all go to main screen does. So if we hit the green flag, we'll click the button 1, the wait 4 seconds, and then broadcast go to main screen happens, and our buttons show back up. But what do we need to do to our backdrop? We don't want this backdrop to be the new backdrop for the rest of the game. So we need to add some code to our backdrop. So right now, backdrop has, when the green flag is clicked, it switches to the home screen. When it receives start game 1, it switches to the blue sky. We need one here that says when I receive go to main screen, then we need to switch the backdrop. Switch the backdrop, which is a little confusing because this code here looks very similar to this one. But that's okay because this is when the green flag is clicked. This is when the game is running. And actually, yeah, let's try that out. Okay, so Mission to Mars, button 1, wait 4 seconds, and then it resets. Now we're ready to do button 2. Okay, so let's think about button 2. Button 2, this is going to be the game where there's just a countdown and the rocket takes off. So we're going to want for this one the same backdrop as game number 1. So come to button 2. Let's add an event when this sprite is clicked, and we're going to add some broadcasts, and we're going to say for this one a new message, start game 2. Okay, so when this sprite is clicked, broadcast start game 2. We also want to broadcast clear everything. All right, let's go to our backdrop. Now we don't know the order that the player is going to do our games on, so we need to account for every single one of these. Let's duplicate this block of code right here, because when we receive start game 1 or when we receive start game 2, let's use that blue sky backdrop. That's the one that has the ground, the green bushes, and the blue sky. So for game 1 or game 2, it's going to switch to the blue sky backdrop. All right, let's add let's duplicate this sprite right here, the game 1 rocket. We're going to duplicate that and rename that. Instead of saying game 1 rocket 2, let's be the game 2 rocket. And let's look at its code for a second. When I receive clear everything, hide, that's fine. When I receive start game 1, let's change that to start game 2. So now we have 2 rockets, game 1 rocket, that will respond when start game 1 happens. And we have game 2 rocket that will respond when start game 2 happens. So we're going to get rid of this wait 4 seconds and go back to the main page blocks. And we can get rid of that one too. And so now what'll happen, you hit the green flag just like normal, but now when we hit button 2, we should see the background change and the rocket show up just like it did on the first one. Okay, so let's put our rocket here, and for game 2 we need a countdown to appear on the screen. So for countdown, we could do this in a complicated way by having like 9 sprites on the screen, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't want to have that many sprites, so we're going to do 1 sprite and then just change the costumes. So come down here, the easiest one I found is in the glow sprite series. Let's do glow 9, and then let's add some costumes to this one. So come over to costumes, because we want this to say 9, and then I'm going to type in 8. There's glow 8, and then we're going to add 7. We're going to keep going until all of the countdown sprites are on here. Now it's important that you put them in order, because if you don't put them in order, then your code has to carefully pick which costume to show. If we insert the costumes here in order, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then all our program will need to do is start at 9 and hit the next costume and the next costume and the next costume. And we can easily go through all those numbers using just a little bit of coding. And I think for our sake, we're going to also add in the 0, because we'll have it take off on 0. Okay, so down here we have a sprite named glow-9. Now that's not a very useful one, so let's call this game 2 numbers. So the name of the sprite is going to tell us which game it's for, just like the game 2 rocket. Now we have the game 2 numbers, and it has these 9 or 10 costumes, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's go to our code. Think about what we want to happen with this sprite when the game just barely starts. So when I receive clear everything, or when everything else resets, we want this sprite to also turn invisible. So we're going to put on here, when I receive everything, hide. But we want this number sprite to show up sometimes though. So when do we want it to show up? So come to events, and that's going to show up with a broadcast. Not clear everything, but what's it going to say? This one is going to be start game 2, because we're clicking on the 2 button for these sprites to show up. So let's hit the green flag and click on the 2. And so far we're off at a good start, but we don't want it to show up on the number 0, so we better tell our code which costume to start on. So drag over this one. When I receive start game 2, switch costume to glow 9 is the top one there. Alright, so hit the flag again, hit the number 2. Now we have a number 9. We want a countdown to happen, then we want the rocket to take off. So what we're going to want to have here is a loop. We're going to repeat, repeat 10 times. What needs to happen in this loop? We want a countdown, so it's going to go 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We already have the costumes in place, so if we just do repeat 10 next costume, 9, it'll go all through those, but probably a little bit too fast, so let's put a control statement in here. And you can do a 1 second delay. For me, that's just too slow, so I'm going to change that to a 0.4. And let's see what happens when I receive start game 2. Now I can activate this code just by clicking on this. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 9. Well, that's pretty good. But let's have it then at the end, because we don't want the countdown to show up on the screen when the rocket's taking off. Let's hide that at the end and see if you notice a problem and think about the way to fix it. So we're going to run this code again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 9 disappeared. Did you see how the 9 came up again? The easiest way to fix that is just to repeat that loop 9 times instead of 10 times. Okay, so let's run this again. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then it disappears. And anytime we run it, it switches back to number 9, so we're good to go. Okay. If you know what 9 times 0.4 is, that'll give you a good indicator of when the rocket needs to take off. But if not, we'll just figure that out with trial and error. So come to the rocket. What we want the rocket to do is after the countdown is done, we want it to start moving up to the top of the screen and start animating so that it looks like the jet flames and rock and smoke is coming out of the back. So when I receive start game 2, we're going to have a control statement here. Let's wait 1 second. Now we don't want a forever loop on this one, because think about what do we want to happen after the rocket gets to the top of the screen. Well, then this game is done and we're going to switch back to the main screen. So instead of a forever loop, let's just do a repeat loop here and we'll make sure we get the number right. Okay, so wait 1 second, repeat 10. We want it to move and animate. So come under motion, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be moving it slowly up on the screen. That's going to change the Y value, which is under motion, change Y by, and let's say change that by 30. And then let's go to looks and also put in here next costume. So as it moves up, 30 spaces, the next costume will switch. Now this is going to create a problem here, and I'm curious to see if you can figure it out on your own. Let's test it out and then see if you catch what the problem is. We're going to test it 2 times. Okay. Here's button number 2. 8765431. Well, there's one problem. Is this wait 1 second wasn't long enough. So let's change that to a 4. Run it again. Click on button 2. 987654321 There's the other problem. Did you see what happened? The rocket started at the top of the screen. Okay, so we don't want our rocket to start down there. We want our rocket, when I receive start game, we better put a go to on there. Go to -171, which will be over here, and let's make that a -240, and that'll be down here in the bottom of the screen. So let's test that again. Button number 2, 7654382. I'm going to stop that, put this on the screen where we want it. You see here it's -129. Let's put that here, -125, something like that. And let's test that out again. Number 2, 7654321 and our rocket takes off. All right, now we can adjust this a little bit, maybe repeat that 12 times to make it look like it flies more off the top of the screen because it was kind of left there. That's a little better. Okay, and what do we want to happen once this little game is done? Well, come back to this game 1 rocket. Remember at the end of this one, we broadcast clear everything, and then we broadcast go to main screen. Let's attach that same code to this rocket on game 2. So reattach that, come back to game 2, drag this over so it copied. Now you don't have to do it that way. You could just come to events, view your broadcast here. But after the rocket is done going to the top of the screen, we want to clear everything, which makes all the sprites hide that we don't need anymore, and then bring the main screen back up. All right, so here is project number 2, 7654321, and then it goes back here. So here's mission number 1, or project number 1, game 1, game 2. Let's add one more thing to game 2 before we finish up real quick. So back on the game 2 rocket, do you notice how sometimes when it starts the costume isn't quite right? When I receive start game 2 and it starts at the beginning position, let's switch the costume there to rocket ship E. So if you remember, rocket ship E is the one that doesn't have any flames sticking out. That would make the most sense for the rocket to look like that while the countdown is still happening. So let's run it again, button number 2. There's rocket ship E, takes off, back to the main screen. That is the 3rd video for the 2nd game. Hopefully you were able to stay with us there and that it all made sense. The next game is going to be one of the most fun we've ever done for the coding contest. So make sure you do the next one too. Thank you.